All right, welcome to our 4 o'clock session featuring Gerry Fortin of Gerry Fortin Rare Coins. He's going to be speaking on the formation of his seeded dime collection and its growth over a quite long period of time. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Gerry.
All right, thank you, Len. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to start off and say thank you to Len, because actually this was Len's idea. A couple of months ago, Len asked me to speak again at the NNP Symposium, and he says, hey, why don't you talk about your seeded dime collection? And actually, it's the first time that I do a presentation on the collection, so I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy the next 45 minutes. We'll leave 15 minutes for questions and answers, which is always the best part of the presentations for me. So the presentation title is called Insights into Building a Consensus. All right, let's try again. Insights into Building a Condition Census Liberty Seeded Dime Collection. All right, this is a multi-decade journey. Actually, it took 30 years. That's where I am on this collection. It's been a 30-year project. And the seeded dime collection covers all the circulation strikes and the major varieties. This has been a really long personal project that I've thoroughly enjoyed. And sometimes I will just put it away for a while and then go at it real hard and then come back and work on it. And now I'm to the point where if I buy 2 to 3 coins a year as an upgrade, I'm doing well. So the topics for this presentation, I'm going to cover personal background, because to know a man's collection or a woman's collection, you have to know the person. Then I'm going to talk about how I set this long-term goal. This is definitely not a 2 or 3 year project. Actually, as I said, it's been a 30-year project. I'll talk about a very disciplined execution plan, because when you're building a really top-tier collection, you must have discipline. And also, how did you fund this type of set? This is a very expensive undertaking. And then we'll move into the really fun part, which is the collection overview and some selected highlights out of the collection. So let's start with my personal background. For those of you that are fans of the daily blog, some of this may be repetitious, but bear with me. My background is semiconductor industry. I've worked in a host of roles. Some of the key roles were product engineering, manufacturing. I actually ran a semiconductor wafer fab for a few years. And I finished my career in marketing and sales in China. So I've held a bunch of corporate roles. So that brings about a keen awareness of, the global industry. So my education started off at UMaine. I graduated in 1978 with a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering. And I was very, very lucky. It was the dawn of the mainframe computer age, and IBM hired me right out of UMaine. So I ended up in East Fishkill, New York, in a semiconductor manufacturing plant up the road in Poughkeepsie. For those of you that know Dutchess County, it was the box plant where the mainframe computers were assembled. I spent 7 years at IBM, and it was probably one of the most exciting periods of my life. It was an absolute technology center. I don't have a formal master's degree, but I'll tell you, I got my master's at IBM in semiconductor technology. Left IBM in '85. I moved back to Maine for family reasons, and I went to work for Fairchild Semiconductor. Fairchild Semiconductor was bought out by National Semiconductor in 1987. And come 1997, Fairchild did a group management team within National Semiconductor did a leverage buyout from Fairchild, of Fairchild from National Semiconductor. And then I ended up in China as my last gig, working for CSMC Technologies, which was like a tier 2, tier 3 semiconductor foundry. And we manufactured chips for Chinese, European, Taiwanese, Korean, Japanese, and American customers. So the last line on this slide says long-term vision and disciplined execution based on initial teenage life experience. Something happened to me when I was 12 that changed my life forever. My mother sat me down because we had very humble upbringing. My parents were French Canadian, second generation immigrants living in Lewiston, Maine. And Lewiston was known for shoe shops and the textile industry. That was it. My mother sat me down and said, if you wish to go to university, you need to start working because we have no money to help you. So at the age of 12, I started taking on any jobs I could find, and I worked through summers after school. And by the time I reached my senior year, I had amassed all of $2,000. Think about it, $2,000 in today's terms. And those $2,000 paid for 2 years at UMaine. So that experience brought about this ability to have a long-term goal, a long-term vision, because it took 6 years to raise $2,000. And I was very, very disciplined about working because I wanted to get out of Lewiston, Maine. I mean, I wanted to make a life for myself and not be trapped in, what was offered in that town. So a little bit about the personal background. For those of you that might have listened to the Coin World podcast that I did just a few weeks ago, I mentioned this several times. I'm fundamentally a restless person. I need continuous learning. For those of you who know me well, you understand this point. I move from one hobby or one business enterprise to another. Just a few years back, I was president of the Liberty City Collector Club, but then it was time to put all my energies into the Gerry Fortin Rare Coins enterprise. Whenever I take on a hobby, it's with deep exploration. I can't do something and just skim the surface. I must dive deeply into the subject matter. And with the Liberty Seated Dimes, that led to years of dive variety research leading to publishing the definitive resource for Liberty Seated Dime variety collectors in 2004. And today it's now the variety standard used by all the auction houses and collectors. I'm also a financially prudent person and take moderate risk with investments, much studying. I think you see that in the daily blog and the global financial news segment. I'm always watching markets, geopolitical events, and that is the basis for how I invest. The Liberty Seated Dime collection is a very serious investment and significant part of our estate. And finally, I believe in hard work. I mean, that should be obvious based on what happened when I was a teenager, and also personal accountability. Those two traits build character and life skills. So let's talk about setting a long-term collecting goal, which this project has been. I really wanted to construct a noteworthy numismatic collection as a family legacy, and at the same time having fun. Now, I got into Liberty Seated Dimes in 1989. I joined the Liberty Seated Collectors Club that year. And through 1992, I was kind of like putting around and learning the series, learning the dates, learning how to grade, the things that most collectors go through when they start seriously collecting. Uh, then come about 1995, I got more and more serious as I was, putting a lot of my personal monies into the research project, the Dive Variety Research Project. And I started becoming enamored with higher grade coins. It happens to all of us. We're collecting XFAUs, and before we know it, we're moving into MS63s because we just like the luster. We like to see more detail on the coins. So quite a bit of my financial resources was being placed into this hobby project. And I started to realize that this project was becoming an alternative investment to balance out monies that I had, in the stock market and in bonds. This project also brought about the acquisition of many hobby skills. When you're pursuing Liberty seated dimes in mint state, you must understand originality, how to grade, rarity, and also learning the dealer and the auction sourcing game, because it truly is its own unique game and for being able to acquire really top-end coins. The other reason that I went with Liberty seated dimes is I'm a student of American history. My father served in the Korean War, and once I was old enough, I would build plastic models. For those of you who remember the Revell, plastic models of ships, of tanks, fighter jets. My father loved to build those, and I built those with him. So that led to an appreciation for history, and I was reading all the books I could find on World War II, the Korean War, and the Civil War. And that is the connection to Liberty seated dimes. I was really fascinated by the Civil War. And when I decided to collect seriously, I wanted to collect a series that spanned the Civil War. Liberty seated coinage was that series. And finally, this long-term collecting goal turned out to be an opportunity for a potential retirement business. It built the foundation for what GFRC is today. I didn't know it at the time, but I had a feeling that I was going to be collecting dimes for a long, long time. And it turned out that way. Now, when you're building a top tier set, there must be a disciplined execution plan. This is not a 2 or 3 year short-term project where you jump into the market, you spend a lot of money, you buy a lot of coins, and then you get bored and you sell it. Building a top-tier collection takes time because there are so few top-tier coins that come to market in a period of 2 to 5 years. You have to be very patient. Since I have this engineering background, I do everything with a process. When you build semiconductor wafers, there are hundreds of processes that are fully spec'd out, and you must follow those processes exactly. So that was my mindset when I started building this collection. I came up with a process for acquiring coins, and there were very strict acquisition requirements. Those were every dime had to have a full strike, unquestionable originality, and had to have notable eye appeal. Now, there are a lot of MS66 and 67 dimes out there that don't have full strikes because Liberty seated dimes, especially the wood legend pieces, are notorious for having partial or flat heads. So finding the later dates in fully struck presents a huge challenge. The second parameter was I made a decision to purchase the finest possible pieces, and I paid the price. So when I went into an auction and I found a very rare date with all of the acquisition requirements that were necessary, I paid the money. I bid, sometimes buy what I call buy it bids, very, very strong bids to make sure I bought the coins. This is opposite from what I see a lot of collectors doing, which were being very sensitive on price. This is not how you build a top tier collection. You must pay the price to get the coins when they appear on the market. I also made another decision, which was a priority for acquiring rare dates and not worrying about the common dates. Rare dates only come to market on an infrequent basis. You can always buy the common dates. It's just a matter of, of price, but they're out there. Also, I kept all my purchases in original holders. I did not play the crack out game. I kept the coins in the original holders because grading standards have changed, and I would rather present my coins in original holders being undergraded rather than having a collection where the coins make the grade. I love having undergraded coins. Finally, I did get involved with the set registry. It was fun, but it did not drive my collecting habits. I bought the right coins and not TPG labels. I know some individuals will buy the labels and not be that strict with the coins. I'm the opposite. I buy the coins, and if, so be it. If the finest I can find is a 65 and there's 67s and 66s out there, but the 65 meets my criteria, that's the coin that will be in my collection. So how is this set funded? I mean, this now is set is worth over retail, well over $1 million. Well, I was very lucky. As I mentioned earlier, the Fairchild management team did a leveraged buyout from National Semiconductor in 1997, and I was part of that team. And I was able to secure second-tier stock options that were valued at $650,000. And what I did is when we went public as Fairchild, I sold it. I sold the stock after the IPO, and I decided to take the monies and trust my own personal numismatic skills over semiconductor markets up and downs. After spending enough years in the semiconductor market, you understand it based on, disruptive technologies, you can go out of business very quickly. So I thought my monies were much better invested in top tier Liberty seated dimes. And finally, financial diversification is always prudent. If you got all your money in stocks, that's probably not a good idea. You need your money in 4 or 5 different places, depending on what potential economic crisis may appear on the horizon. So that's the background. So let's talk about this set. This Liberty seated dime collection, if you're going to build a red book set, it's 121 dates and mint marks and also major die varieties. It's substantial. My goal was to build a top tier mint state collection. And today, 94% of the collection is CAC approved with 8 gold CAC beans. That didn't happen by chance. Again, the very strict criteria that I set for myself brought that about. As a group, the set contains the finest Civil War era San Francisco mint issues, and I'm incredibly proud about this because this was one of the objectives when building the set. I realized how rare mint state San Francisco strikes are from the 1860s, and I made it a passion to go chase those down and put those into this collection. So my philosophy was to invest in true survival rarities rather than top pop common dates. I think I mentioned this just before. I bought 65s for rare dates, or 64, 65s, whatever was available. But for the common dates, I stayed away from the really top pops because I didn't think they were worth it. I would buy like 1 or 2 grades down on the knee of the value curve. And today I'm starting to fill in those dates with, with the top pops. Again, there were no attempts with crackouts and upgrading. Whatever I bought stayed in its holder. And in 2014, I brought the collection to CAC. I hand walked it through with John Albanese, and I secured an 83% CAC approval rate with a bunch of gold CAC pieces. It was validation of the strategy. All right, so let's take a tour. And this is the first time I do something like this. So let's open up the tour of the set with the first date in the set. So this is the 1837 large date. It's a type coin. My example is an MS65 CAC. There are 4 better. And as I go through this review of some specific dates, all of the references for the finest known or better than what I have in my set are all based on CAC, not PCGS or NGC. I find that the CAC population report is the true assessment of the finest known pieces, in collector hands. So this is the example, is the second finest known F105C clash dies. And for those of you that are intimate with seated dimes, you can see the heavy die clashing and the die cracks up through Liberty. Right now, the Newtown collection has the finest, which is a 66. I bought this coin at Heritage Auction in May of 2007. It's a perfect piece for opening the collection display. It just has such stunning luster. Next on the hit parade is the 1838 small stars. You don't see that many small stars in the market, even in XFAU or Mint State. The example in my collection is an MS65 gold CAC, and it has that classic soft, frosty luster of this date. The small stars always look the same. They always have this very fine, granular, soft luster. And they come in progressive die states. This is the late die state that I've labeled as F101A, with the die cracks through the left-hand stars down through the date. And you can see the doubling on the reverse. This piece was purchased in August of 2004 at a Heritage auction. It just has exceptional preservation. I could not be more pleased. It's the finest known. Next is the 1839 small O, which I'm in love with. This is graded MS65 with a gold CAC. It just has this incredible mint bloom and lovely soft toning, and it has a hammered strike. It's condition census. There are 3 in 66 and 3 in 67 green CAC. Mine is a 65 gold CAC. So it's in there. It's somewhere in the condition census. This was purchased in August of 2006 at a Heritage auction. It's just an exceptional gem. I would never have a need to upgrade this coin. Now let's move to incredibly rare date. So the New Orleans Mint was positioned in the Deep South, and coinage from New Orleans went into circulation and stayed there. Very few pieces were saved in Mint State. And the 2 notable dates where probably the best that any collector can find as an AU would be 1843 and 1845. Few Mint State examples are known. The piece in my collection is the Pittman piece. It's graded AU 55. It's got an incredible strike. It's got the typical Pittman toning. You know, Pittman coins, many of them have the bullseye, colorful toning. This piece is in the condition Census. In the 1845 CAC population report, there's 2 in 62 and 1 in 63. That's it. This is an AU 55 gold CAC. So again, it's there in the top group. And I bought this piece privately in 2003 and secured a gold CAC bean in 2014. This is just, again, a coin that I'm thoroughly in love with. This is a real sleeper date, and I don't think people realize it. 1847 dimes are really rare in mint state. There are, let's see, from my notes, there are only 3 in 63, and that's it. There are no 4s, 5s, 6s, or 7s. And when I was collecting, it took me a while to realize this, but today, a 47 dime is really, really tough. And this piece has just such an incredible strike. It has natural copper gold patina. As I said, it's tied for finest. There are 3 at 63. And I bought this by private transaction in March of 2002. So I've held this piece for a number of years. And then there's the 1874 CC. This is the key for the Liberty Seated Dime series. This is such a difficult date to find perfectly original. Most 74cc dimes that you see have porosity, or they've been professionally conserved. There are very few strictly original 74cc dimes out there. And believe me, I've looked at many in AU and XFAU and even mint state holders, and I shake my head in how they got into the holders because they're not original. This piece has a complete strike. It's CAC approved. There's 5 better. There's an AU 55 that just sold for $115,000, which I did not like. I had the chance to chase that coin, but I didn't like it. The AU 55 had a partial head, had a number of marks on the obverse. It did have luster, but it was just not my kind of coin. I'm much more happy or pleased with this XF45. There are also 2 in 62 and 1 in 63. I bought this coin in an annex old white holder, believe it or not. I bought it at auction, and then I crossed it at PCGS, and it was CAC approved in 2014. As far as I'm concerned, with where I am with the set, it's essentially unimprovable because I don't like the AU 55, and then you're looking at $250,000 for a mint state example or more. Now, let's take a look at my pride and joy. Let's tour the 1860 San Francisco dates. Again, this was my primary focus when I was building the collection. My 1860S, I made a decision on limiting the number of coins that I showcase for time. My 1860S, I have 2. I have a 60S MS63 gold CAC, and also an MS64 green CAC, which is the outwash plate coin. I'm still trying to decide which one I love more and then to sell the duplicate at some point, but I have 2 of those. My 61S is an MS62 green CAC, and that leads us to the 1862S. This is a 63 CAC with just incredible originality. It's got a complete strike, and for those of you that understand Civil War, San Francisco strikes, they come horribly struck. with partial heads, and sometimes the O of is missing and the S of states is missing. This is about as nice a strike as you will find. And this coin also has some great pedigrees. Norweb, the Bolin collection, and also the Richmond collection. I bought this coin out of the Richmond sale in March of 2005. It wasn't an NGC holder, which, I mean, the Richmond sale, all the coins were NGC. And I crossed it to PCGS and then secured CAC approval. There's one finer at MS65. The 1863. This is just such a phenomenal coin. Again, incredible originality, a full strike. Look at the head details for San Francisco Civil War strike. Really strong pedigrees, this Reed Hahn and the Lovejoy collection. This was purchased at the American Numismatic Rarities, if you remember them, before they returned to being stacks, at the Frog Run sale. The Frog Run sale offered a substantial amount of top quality Liberty seated dimes. And I actually took the train from Maine down to Baltimore, sat in the audience in December of 2004 and bought a number of pieces from this sale. This piece was the highlight. And believe it or not, this piece was purchased in an NGC 63 holder. I cracked it out. So yeah, I did crack out a few coins because this one was just so undegraded. And submitted to PCGS. It came back 64. And in 2014, John Albanese gave it a gold CAC. John also mentioned that he was proud of me for not attempting to remove that spot above the 1 and the 8 on the obverse, because that would have just ruined the coin. And today, that spot is considered as part of the originality. Is it the finest known? Let's see, a 63. There's 1 in 64 green CAC and 1 in 65 green CAC. This is a 63 gold CAC. I'll let you decide. Okay, the 1864 is a recent acquisition. For years, I mean, we're talking decades, I waited for a really top-end MS64 to come to market. And last year in Legends Big Mo sale, this 1864 appeared, and it met all of my criteria. It's just got phenomenal mint bloom, incredibly original, has a complete strike. It has the Northern Bay and the Gene Gardner pedigrees, and it's the finest known. And I stepped up and bought it. It was that simple. I had waited, again, 2 decades for this coin, and I was not going to lose it. The 1865S. This is one of my favorite coins of many in the collection. It's only MS63 CAC. There are 2 finer. There's a 64 and a 65, but this is an F101. And for those of you that are intimate with 1865S dimes, F101 always comes with a flat head or a partial head. I mean, I could probably count on 3 fingers how many full head F101s I've seen in my lifetime. But this is the Elias Bird piece. It's superbly original. And this was purchased back in 1997 at a heritage auction. It was CAC'd in 2014, and as I mentioned, there's 2 finer, in 64 and 65. I remember going to a sale in New York City where the MS65 appeared at auction, and I was planning to chase that coin, but guess who was in the audience? Gene Gardner. And when Gene is in the audience, or was, I mean, now that he's passed, when Gene was active and in an auction audience, you were not going to outbid him on a coin. And so he got the 65, and I stayed pleased with my MS63. All right, the 1868S. This one took a little bit of guts. Today it sits in a MS64 CAC holder. It has creamy mint frost, which is the way high-end 1860s come. In later dye states, the dyes develop orange peel. And if you look at the images, you can see the very faint orange peel on this coin in the fields. This piece is fully struck. It was purchased in 2003 at the ANA Baltimore show, and I bought it in an ICG MS65 holder. I knew the coin was spectacular. So I bought it, and then I crossed it into a PCGS MS64 holder. And in 2014, it CAC'd. And today, there are 5 at MS64. It's a very strange situation for the date. There are 5 at MS64 with a CAC sticker, but no others in mint state. There's no 61s, 2s, 3s, or 5s. They're all 64s. I got them out of order, I apologize. I added the 68S an hour ago and I put it in the wrong order. All right, so we'll go to 1866. This is a phenomenal piece. There's only 2 in 65 as finest with CAC approval. This is fully gem. There's few known. There's only 5 in mint state for the date. I bought this coin back in 2006, again at a heritage auction. I paid the money to get it. At the time, it was a record. And again, it was CAC approved in 2014. The 1867, what an incredibly original piece. You gotta love the complete strike, the peripheral gold. This is possibly the finest known. In 67, there are 3 64s with green CAC and 2 65s, and then the 64 gold CAC. This was purchased at an American numismatic rarity sale. This was the Kennywood sale in 2005, and it secured a gold CAC bean in 2014. And lastly, the 1869S. This is the finest known. It's MS67 green CAC. It has an amazing strike for a 69S. It has superb frosted luster. And I bought this coin last year from Great Collections. This is a mysterious piece. It was off the market since graded, and it's housed in a PCGS old green holder. It has never appeared at auction prior to showing up on the Great Collections website last year. And I was just so fortunate to be able to buy it and really round out the series of 1860s dimes. And that's it. So thank you for listening. I could go on and on about the individual pieces in the set, but I think I've hit some important highlights. There is nothing sweeter than sharing highlights from this set. I'm just having an incredible amount of fun. And maybe in the fall, I've been talking with my table assistants. I may bring the set out and display it at Baltimore at my GFRC table. So I'll pass it back to Len for questions and hopefully some answers.
All right, so any questions you have, feel free to type into the Q&A window. First question here, you mentioned being closed out or shut out by Gene Gardner a few times. Did you acquire any of those when the Gardner sales took place?
No. Actually, let me talk a little bit about that topic. When Gene started collecting again in 2005, I stopped because I was at a level where the coins that I wanted, Gene wanted. And it was impossible to outbid Gene. So I put the collection away in 2005, and it sat dormant for, a number of years. Yeah, I added a piece here and there, but I was not really active. And come 2013, I started GFRC. So my money was tied up in a new business venture, and no, I did not participate in the Gardner auction because my monies were needed for another project.
All right, next question. What is the most difficult New Orleans coin to find original?
Oh, good question. I would say either 1843-0 or 1851-0. 43-0 is brutal, absolutely brutal above XF45. Go look at the CAC populations report. There's just a few in AU and there's one mint state. That's it. 1851-0s, the same situation. There's more mint state pieces, but I don't like any of them. And this is one of the dates I'm still looking for. I have an NGC 63 that I don't believe is 100% original that has a hammered strike. But finding a 51-0 that's truly original, nearly impossible.
All right, next question, and we could probably have a whole class about this one, but it's a good question. Can you describe how you differentiate a natural piece from one that is professionally conserved? In particular, how does the luster differ between those two pieces?
Well, when I worked in the semiconductor industry, I spent much time with sputtered and evaporated metals. And so I'm a bit of a metallurgist. I can look at the surface of a coin and quickly tell if the coin has been worked on. You look at the surfaces, and again, the visual characteristics of the surfaces, and right away, you have a very strong idea if the coin is 100% original, because you're looking for natural metal flow on the surfaces, and natural metal flow produces a specific type of luster. As Len said, we could do a whole class on this. It's hard to describe verbally because it's such a visual exercise. But I'm to the point now, after collecting these coins and looking at all these high-end coins, I can see some 6s and 7s, and I shake my head because they're not original. They have been worked on. I wish I could give you more details, but if you sit down with me and buy me a beer, I could bring out 5 or 6 coins and show you what true originality looks like at the really highest grades.
Yeah, a good suggestion is, just go to auction lot viewing, and if nothing else, look at the CAC coins versus the non-CAC coins.
Yeah, I would not do auction lot viewing because there's so much dregs in auction lots. That's a minefield. Look at top-end CAC coins, and you'll get a fairly good idea of what original mint state pieces are supposed to look like.
All right, next question. What would be your approach for some of us mere mortals without a large stock portfolio to cash in? Do we look for nice MS63 coins or possibly circulated pieces? Okay, I'll stop there. I was going to make an editorial comment that, I know the person that sent this in, and he has a much nicer collection than I do. So, but
okay,
I'll take it.
Okay,
but it's a good question regardless.
Okay, it's a good question. My recommendation, depending on your budget, is go after AU58 CACs and be very selective, or go after MS62, 63 CACs. that's really the knee of the value curve for most dates. If you get into the very rare dates, you may have to chase an AU50 and AU55 if you're trying to bill a set. But that would be my answer for the mere mortals.
And maybe a secondary question there is, you know, when you first started putting your set together, were you doing unks or circulated pieces?
When I started, I was doing circulated pieces, and I just moved up. It was that natural progression. You got to remember that I was doing die variety research, and when you're doing die variety research, you're looking for very minute details to identify or classify the dies. So you're looking for die scratches, die blobs, you know, anything you can find, very subtle die cracks. And the minimum you needed was AU50 to be able to pick up the diagnostics. So I moved into the AU realm as part of the project, and you know what happens. Then I started looking at mint state coins, and oh, I could see even more on the mint state coins. So I started buying some mint state coins along with everything else. And then I got hooked on mint state coins and just, you know, kept going.
All right, next question. You had a presentation this morning on the Hansen collection. Are there any pieces in the Fortin collection that might be suitable someday to go into the Hansen collection?
Honestly, I don't pay attention. I don't pay attention to set registry. All I'll say is I'll put my set out against Bender or Hansen any day and let people look and draw their own conclusions.
All right, if there are any other questions out there, you can enter them into the Q&A. Another question, have you had any particular strategy in selling off duplicates as you've upgraded, or do you just look for good opportunities to sell?
Typically, when I have a duplicate, I have multiple requests for the coin. The set is so well known, the quality is so high that other collectors, once I announce in the daily blog that I've done an upgrade, there's always several individuals that approach me for the duplicate, so I'm not worried. I mean, selling the whole set will be a completely different challenge, but for right now, selling the upgrades is not an issue. I mean, the upgraded coin is not an issue.
Yeah. All right, next question. If you had to buy any less than stellar pieces for purposes of die variety research, if so, how do you handle selling those pieces?
Oh, absolutely. I still have a double row 2x2 box full of pieces I bought for the variety that are not original. This is part of the territory when you're doing die variety research. You don't know when you'll find another example, so you have to buy the coin. I mean, this is symptomatic of everybody who has done this type of effort. And when you sell the coin, you just disclose it and sell it. That's all. I mean, if it's a clean coin, you announce it as cleaned and you let it go. It's that simple.
All right, we'll leave it open for another minute here if there's anyone else that has Q&A. All right, one more. Budget aside, when do you stop attempting to upgrade a particular coin?
when I can't find a better example that meets my criteria. Again, these are, actually, it's a very simple decision. I'll give you an example. If you look in my set on the GFRC open set registry, 1858, there's an MS63, I'm sorry, yeah, 1858, there's an MS63. Think about it for a minute. 1858 is a common date. And my coin is an MS63. Why? Because the date becomes so erratically struck. I have seen 66s and 67s, but they're not full strikes. And as I said, I will not put a partially struck dime in my collection. So that's it. And it's got to be completely original. It's got to have beautiful eye appeal. So today I still have a 63. So if you're playing the set registry game, everybody looks at that and wonder, what's wrong? Why? Yeah. Why doesn't he have a 6 or a 7? That's the answer. So that's why I'm not enamored with set registry, because set registry is predicated on TPG labels, not the coins, on TPG labels.
Yeah, and
for a moment.
The mint just did not have the level of consistency in the 19th century that it does today, and strike quality is really all over the place. Especially early dates, and you saw, the little tutorial I gave on the San Francisco strikes. San Francisco strikes very erratic, but even 1856, 1857, 1858 Philly strikes were erratic. Yeah, yeah. All right, a couple more questions here. If you decided to start collecting a new series, outside seated dimes, what would it be? Today, operating GFRC, I collect everything. That's my answer. I'm guessing you would have to go something that, isn't terribly well researched and that, you can bring some value to. No, I am to the point in my life, I'm 66, that I will not start collecting another series because I'm just having way too much fun handling so many great coins as a coin dealer. So I'm sorry if I don't give you an answer, but maybe the answer is I won't start another series. Yeah, yeah. I'm going to continue to systematically upgrade the dime set, because I still have about, let's see, about 6 coins that are not CAC approved, and these 6 coins I'm not happy with. But I've waited decades for the right piece to come to the market so I can buy it. So that's really what I'm still doing as a collector, is being incredibly patient. I think you've kind of answered this, but I'll ask it anyway. Are you looking for MS68s? No. No, that's not who I am. In Liberty seated dimes, there's very few MS68s. I mean, you got the 45-0, Eliasberg, that's a 69. That's probably the highest graded Liberty seated dime in existence. The common dates, do I really need a 68 when a 7+, 67+, that's gorgeous and original with phenomenal luster? It's good enough. Again, I don't play the registry game. I buy the best coins I can find. All right. I think that's it for the Q&A. All right. All right. Thank you very much, Gerry. This video will be available in 2 to 3 weeks after all the videos are post-processed. And thanks for joining us today. All right. Thank you, Len, for facilitating as usual. Good job. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye now.